Are all of the people that were involved in the procession, all of the various law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, tow truck drivers, and loved ones, civilian loved ones as well, now coming in and getting their candles for the candlelight vigil. If you missed it, one of the things I had just learned, we were talking about earlier, that really struck me, here in the center of the skate park, there is a Fairway patrol car parked here. I thought it was just to have the presence of a Fairway patrol car. No, it was Officer Oswald's patrol car, the one he drove, and that is the centerpiece for this memorial service. His family will be here. They have special seats at the area. They will not be speaking. We'll be hearing from the police chief, the mayor, and a chaplain. There will also be a song sung by an Overland Park police officer. We will be here once that starts. We are going to be keeping a respectful distance, and we will let you listen in as best we can from a distance to what happens once that begins. You can see here now some folks are carrying the thin blue line flag. You know, I noticed when I was watching the tow trucks drive by, I spoke with one of the tow truck owners, and here's the thing, whether they're going to accidents or stalled cars, a lot of the things that police respond to, those tow truck drivers respond to as well. Many of those tow trucks were carrying the thin blue line flag, but I also noticed a flag that was very similar to it with a yellow stripe instead of a blue stripe. And my guess is, and I really am just spitballing here, but yellow for those emergency responders because they are responding to emergency scenes as well. I'm going to stop speaking here and let you take a look at everyone arriving, and then we will continue to broadcast live once this service begins. Brad, Carolyn.
Yeah, Betsy, thank you. But yeah, just to reiterate to what Betsy just said, these are all the folks that were driving in on the parade route, all the people who are in the first responder vehicles, whether it be tow trucks or police officer, cruisers or deputy cars, what have you. These are the folks who've been given, they're holding candles, they're all getting ready to go take a seat and be a part of this service that's just about to start here in a few minutes.
Bears mentioning too that if you're just now watching from home, the vigil is set to begin at 9 o'clock. So actually there still is about a half hour's time. If you still are in the area at all and want to be a part of this and want to show your support, the public is welcome to join in this candlelight vigil tonight, and they very much welcome that. And so there is public parking set up at 3 different locations at the Henson Family YMCA. There's more public parking at the Mission Road Bible Church, and then another parking lot at the Community of Christ Church if you would like to be a part of this. And they have this stage set up basically in the grassy area just west of that skate park there. We thought very touching that back in his childhood, that Officer Oswald, when he was a teenager, was very into skateboarding and surfing, but to have this here at a skate park is kind of touching, isn't it? This strong and emotional show of support we're watching here highlights just how highly thought of his colleagues were very much in respect of him. And for today's parade, we spoke with the Fairway Police Chief, J.P. Thurlow. At the time, he was teary-eyed alongside all of his fellow officers as they were just now starting to get this news. And they were just praising Officer Oswald for his bravery. He's often talked about for his sense of humor as well and his intelligence. And they all said there was no one like him.
We will never be able to replace Jonah. But because of who we are and knowing what he stood for and the type of officer he was and the type of officers that we bring to our community, he's never going to be forgotten because he's going to live on through all of us.
And Chief Thurlow also saying that he knows his department is one of the smallest in the metro area, but because of all of this support we're seeing tonight, he said they now feel like they're among the biggest in the country. He said Jonah was an amazing officer, always wanting to be the first one in.
Okay, so look at this image here. They've left all of their lights on their cars. This is just one of the parking lots. This is right out by the one of the parking lots of Shawnee Mission East. That's the tennis courts that's in behind it. There's another parking lot that's right over by the swimming pools. And it strikes you just how many cars and okay, now this is, yeah, look at this. And they left all those lights on, and man, just the message that sends, the solidarity and the unity and the brotherhood and the sisterhood that keeps coming up among all the people that we've talked to along the parade route tonight, and people who've worked in law enforcement say, you know what, this is the darkest day. But it's on days like this when we see the support from not just our fellow first responders, but it's the support from the people who show up, people who didn't know Jonah Oswald, people who maybe have never interacted with anyone from the Fairway Police Department before. But here now the 7 remaining officers of that small Fairway Police Department, they feel this, and they've said that they can sense what the community and what people, not just in the Fairway area, but in the Kansas City community, the metro area, they can feel people reaching out to them, and they can feel people. They've talked about all the bouquets and the mementos that people have put out in front of the Fairway Police Department, but they've said beyond that, people are coming up to them and saying, thank you for what you do. We appreciate you. We value you. You're important. And that's important on this critical day, on a somber day when our hearts are so heavy and heartbroken for the Oswald family and for his 2 little kids who aren't going to have a father to grow up with, and a wife who isn't going to have a husband who will come home after his shift. They have a long life in front of them without a dad and a husband. And so that's why it's so important, as people have said, if you can help the family out, please do so. In any way.
Yeah, there are several funds and set up, and I'm sure many other ways that you can help their family, and we have to continue to hold them up during this difficult time. You can't even imagine. This route that we're showing you here is the route that the Parade of Blue took starting at 7:30 tonight, has wound its way now to its finishing point there at Harmon Park, just basically south of Shawnee Mission East High School this evening. That's where the candlelight vigil will begin here in about 25 minutes. It really brings to light, I think, more than anything this week is, most of us know when we go into work what we're in for. As an officer, you don't know what your day holds in any way, where you will be going, what you will be doing, who you will be, come in contact with. And on that Sunday morning, it was early on a Sunday morning, 7:30 a.m., that this gunfire happened at that quick trip there in Mission. And, for this officer to have gone in, following a police chase of a suspected stolen vehicle, to go in there on a given Sunday morning, who would have thought that would be his last day on the job? But you go into work every day, nonetheless, knowing that this very well could be a day that I run into something troubling.
And that's what the family members of officers and first responders, that's what they're so concerned about.
Sure.
Is that you don't know what they're going to encounter. You don't have control over what you're going to encounter.
And that's what you call a hero, though, that goes into that line of work day in and day out, knowing that has the potential of being that kind of a day.
Yeah, so look at the candlelight vigil that continues to grow, and then the shot next to it with the parking lot that has all those first responder vehicles with their lights on, and it's just such an image to behold on this night that has had so many powerful images that we've been a part of, and that what we've seen, and some of the people that we've talked to along the parade route, everyone having a personal connection, even though they may not have known Officer Jonah Oswald.
But those who did know him, we've heard this week from some of his friends, some of his colleagues, and all of them seemingly saying very similar things. And one is that he was just an amazing personality. This particular former partner, police partner, said he always had such a happy-go-lucky personality, truly wanted to do what he could to make a difference out there in the world and his community. He was serious about being a police officer, But he always loved to joke around with his colleagues every time he had the chance. And again, that is the image that we're getting of this officer, that in his off time, or when it was appropriate, he knew how to have fun and be a little silly.
And they also said he had a little, kind of a twisted sense of humor, real kind of dark,
A little
dry,
kind of a dark humor.
Kind of dark, dry humor that's. They said some people, if you didn't get it, you might be like, hey, well, what's he talking about?
But he was very unapologetic about that. This is who I am. Who I am is what you see.
Yeah,
what you see is what you get.
Yeah, exactly. And he did not apologize for his. Okay, we've talked about how so many people have asked how they can help and what they can do. And so we do have some ways that you can be a part of this. You can make donations to the Fairway Police Department, and that at any Price Chopper around the metro, you can go in and donate at any Price Chopper.
And they're going to continue to do that for quite some time until August 22nd here.
22nd.
So, about 10 more days or so. Yeah.
And of that, I mean, they've made it very clear that every single cent of the donations made to the Price Chopper locations, every single penny will go to the family of Officer Oswald. The family, the wife and his two kids. They're going to need so much. Tonight is an important night for them, but then there's next week and the week after that, and there's bills to pay for.
And then when it gets too quiet.
Right.
Yeah, but right now there's a lot going on, as memorials and funerals have to be planned, and there's a lot of, I'm sure, action in their household right now. But before you know it, once that's all quiet, it gets a little too quiet, and that's when, more than anything, the support is needed for that young family. We were talking about his friends, and we've been able to catch up with his friends throughout the week. Some people who did know him quite intimately for the guy he was. And as we watch Officer Oswald's the community and colleagues and family celebrating his life, one of his lifetime friends gave us a real intimate view of what the life he lived was really like, and we've come to learn that he was definitely a one-of-a-kind person. His name is Nate Nestorik. He knew Officer Oswald for more than 12 years, so quite some time, from their time working together when they were both 17 years old. This was at Cafe Europa we were talking about earlier there in Brookside. Nate says Oswald was one of the happiest people he knew, loved to skateboard, and forged his own knives out of railroad spikes. And he also told our Gianni Navarro, Officer Oswald gave 100% effort into everything he did, and from that he knew that Oswald would always be such a great police officer.
He knew that he was smart and talented at whatever he was going to do. So I think most days he felt like he had, the world around his finger.
He went on to tear up a little bit and say, the most heartbreaking thing for him now is that these two young kids will have to just know their dad through more than anything, through stories.
Yeah.
Stories that others can tell. He had great aspirations, and so his friend there, Nate, says he knew, I knew he could do anything, and when he chose to protect and serve his community, he knew he would do that above anything else.
And so what's interesting about that too is that his job at Cafe Europa, he took that job, he had moved here from San Diego and had followed his girlfriend here, and so that he was working at that Cafe Europa. I believe she worked there too. I think if I read that story right, that was a way that he could, stay close with her. So it was almost like a romantically driven decision to get that job. And I understand it as a teenager.
Theirs was
but
quite a love story.
He was in love,
like.
and they would eventually get married and start a family. And that is the man that we are talking about tonight. His life cut far too short, and he was living life to the fullest and everything, and all the other stories that we've been telling you about. This is the guy that when he picked up a hobby, he was going to conquer that hobby, and he was going to do it as well as he could, and he did in many, many, many different hobbies that he picked up.
We're hearing now from our crews out there on the scene waiting for this candlelight vigil to get going. Apparently they're waiting now just for the fire trucks and for the tow trucks to get into place and get in and get parked and organized, and then the candlelight vigil will begin, and we're going to show you much of that as well, as much as we can from here. As we bring this whole parade of blue to you here tonight, one to honor Officer Jonah Oswald from the Fairway, Kansas Police Department, and one that no doubt leaves a hole in so many hearts, not only to officers, but I was touched there as we're watching everybody kind of gathering around and picking up their candles for this vigil. I was touched by how many young kids are out there tonight.
Yeah, I was too.
On a Saturday night.
Yep.
Quite amazing, I would think, for this family and these officers to see that it's not just them supporting each other.
Right.
It's the whole community truly supporting, and of all ages.
Yeah, that's what we saw, young kids along the parade route, and we did see a lot of teenagers and youngsters out along there. That's awesome to see. That just goes to show you the reach that this is having, and how many people want to be a part of this who may not have known him at all, never met him, but have said, you know what, this is important. This happened not too far away from where we live, and this is tragic. And a family is now shattered because of it. A tragic loss. We've talked about how this is a loss for the police department, and it is. It's a huge loss for the community. But specifically, there's a wife and two young children who are going to grow up without a dad. And it sounded like he was just an awesome dad. So, so many people hurting so much tonight, and doing what they can to try and say goodbye in the best way that they can.
Mm-hmm. And as we've been mentioning here, we're waiting here for about the next 15 minutes as they get ready for this candlelight vigil, when all these parade vehicles will have parked there at Harmon Park, and the public and all these officers can take part in this vigil. And then the visitation, then, if you can't take part in this tonight, there are other ways that the area will pay tribute. First being here, Governor Laura Kelly saying that flags will be flown at half-staff on Monday, saying my thoughts are with the family and loved ones of the Fairway Police Department Officer Jonah Oswald, whose life was tragically cut short after he was shot while on duty. So again, on Monday, you will see flags being flown at half-staff. And then if you can't take part in this vigil tonight, there is a visitation tomorrow evening from 5 to 8 at Westside Family Church. That's at 8500 Woodsonia Drive in Lenexa. And then the funeral, again, at that same church on Monday morning, will be at 11 a.m. There will be no graveside service. However, there will be a short ceremony outside of that church then on Monday, probably by the afternoon by that point when the service is concluded.
All right, we continue to wait for the vigil to begin, as this shot continues to just impress.
Yeah.
As the night has gotten darker, and these are all the patrol cars and all the first responders who took part in the parade of blue. And
boy, hundreds, you'd have to say. We were trying to get an overall patrol car count, and we are unable to at this point because we just can't get.
So this is in the parking lot of Shawnee Mission East, right over by the tennis courts and the swimming pool, and then that's really close. Harmon Park is obviously just within walking distance of there. That's why they chose Harmon Park.
Right.
But it's right there, right by Shawnee Mission East, and people continue to kind of filter in and flow in as we. It's scheduled to start, within about 15 minutes, but we're just waiting to hear. To get the word of they're putting the final touches on getting everything ready, but people continue to wait for this to begin and to pay their respects to Officer Oswald. We're
getting word now that they may start that candlelight vigil here momentarily, and out of respect for the service and the solemn nature of this, we're going to stay as far back as is logical but we want to bring you as much as we can. Hopefully we can at least hear some of the tributes being made on the microphone, but out of respect, we are going to kind of stay back away from the stage that has been set up here, the stage
Carolyn,
set up in the grassy area.
What you're looking at right now, that is Officer Jonah Oswald's patrol car. This is his Fairway Police Department patrol car that's been parked. This is kind of in the middle, so this is kind of a focal point for everyone who's arriving there at the candlelight vigil, and you know, that's a touching tribute.
Pretty poignant centerpiece there, right?
It really is.
A patrol car that sadly is empty tonight.
So as we've mentioned, as you look at the images that we've watched for the last 2 hours of all these patrol cars and first responders, they've just come from all over. I mean, clearly every department in Wyandotte County and Johnson County is represented. But then, you know, we also saw the Kansas City Public Schools police officer car involved in the Parade of Blue too. They were there from Leavenworth. They were there from Lawrence. There were patrol cars from Ottawa, Kansas. There were military police vehicles there. The Sheriff's Department from Buchanan County. Those are just a few. Just a tip of the thumbnail of how many departments took part. And then, of course, there was you know, the Legion Honor Guard who were on their motorcycles. There were tow trucks. There were fire departments from all across the metropolitan area on both the Missouri side and the Kansas side. This has nothing to do with the you know, the state line when an officer is killed loses their life in Missouri or whether it's Kansas. Departments on both sides of the state line are there to say, we're here to support you in any way that we can. And there have been departments who've been filling in from all across the metro, who've been sending their officers to help the Fairway Police Department as they needed officers to peel off and kind of do some other things.
Sure, run
just the logistics of running the department.
Operations, sure.
So other departments filled in, and even from administrative duties to helping patrol. And so I thought that was kind of a cool thing that other departments did as well.
We're seeing some people taking to social media tonight, some people who along this parade of blue have been touched by the scene that we were so touched by tonight. Melissa Rooker writing in, tweeting out, saying here, quoting, "Oh my goodness, I was moved to tears by the parade of blue to honor fallen Fairway Officer Jonah Oswald. First responders from far and wide, both sides of the state line paid tribute. It was beautiful, but so terribly sad. Thank you to all who joined this tribute." Well said, Melissa.
Well, I think that's what was, I keep using the word striking, and what's so striking about what we continue to see is it's a lot to take in, and it's you know, we're grieving the loss of a local hero, and to see all these people from so many different walks of life, from so many different first responders from our area who help us all, whether it's a firefighter or whether it's a police officer or a school resource officer. All these people are there for us in the public to make our lives safer and better. And they respond when the tough gets going, and they're there. They're the first ones there, thus first responders.
Yeah. And to see all of them from so many walks of life join in this tribute on a Saturday night in a hot summer day, to join in this tribute for him is really emotional. And I was touched more than anything, just as much by the number of cars as the silence of the procession. It was just silent along that route as people maybe literally, quite literally, took their hats off or put their hand over their chest or whatever, just to say, we see you, we're here for you. We don't even know how to show it as a part of your community, but if this is a way we can do it, then we are right here on the sidewalks alongside this parade of blue.
And imagine being in one of those vehicles in the parade, to see all the people. You're right. Just showing up was all anyone had to do. That was the idea of this. Show up, show out. If you can, wear some blue. If you can put a blue ribbon around a tree, do it. Do anything you can do. this is about honoring Jonah Oswald. It's also about honoring all of our local first responders, because they do put their lives on the line. They don't know what lies ahead of them when they go into work on any particular day. And so this is a chance, it's also a chance for everyone to say, thank you for what you do, because what they do is so critical and so important.
Okay. We also can tell you, just as a way of showing tribute elsewhere in the city. This is not just Fairway, Kansas we're talking about here. Union Station is lit up in blue and has been all week long in honor of this fallen hero as well. What a beautiful tribute there tonight as we're looking live towards Union Station as well.
Yeah, it's been quite a night, quite a Saturday night, and it's not over yet. The candlelight vigil will be starting momentarily. Flags also at half staff. I know the flag out here at KCTV5 has been lowered.
Yeah, all week long.
All week long. And
the rest of the state will join in, as we learned from Governor Kelly. The rest of the state will join in to the flags being lowered on Monday, specifically in his honor. What a touching tribute tonight and on through the weekend now into Monday for this officer who was only 29 years old. Just far too young. Clearly, there's no age that makes this okay or anything, but a 29-year-old to be on the job and lose his life for such a senseless crime. No crime makes sense, but this one really was senseless. And to lose his life to this crime on Sunday morning, almost a week ago, is truly a loss here in our community.
Officer Jonah Oswald, badge number 5801. 29 years old. We just found out that the vigil is less than 3 minutes away from beginning, so hang with us here as we continue to wait for this vigil to start. There's going to be, the mayor is going to speak, the chief of police, J.P. Thurlow, is going to speak. There's going to be a few other speakers as well. But this is all about saying goodbye and saying thank you. To Officer Jonah Oswald, who gave everything he had last Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, when he responded to that call, that what turned out to be a fateful call.
What you're seeing here, I know it's very dark and it's on purpose that we're not lighting up our news camera lights for this because of the solemn nature of it. But if you can see here, they have sort of the main candles being lit here in remembrance, and no doubt that is from the base of where the other smaller candles around the crowd will be lit here shortly. We're seeing officers just starting to come to this the main tribute candle here, and that is the start of the candlelight vigil that we're going to bring you here tonight on KSMO and on our streaming services.
Yeah, this is happening at Harmon Park, which is right next to Shawnee Mission East High School. That has really been the focal point, kind of the ending point of this, what has been a parade and now a candlelight vigil. And what is going to be, what has been an emotional week is now turning into an emotional weekend, and then clearly the funeral on Friday will be the culmination of that as Officer Jonah Oswald is laid to rest. Yeah, on Monday. As everyone says goodbye to Officer Oswald.
And that picture, the image we show of him, and as we see the flags flown at half staff, just such a young man at the start of his life, really, just taken far too soon, clearly. And honoring a hero all over the city, from Union Station and beyond. And it doesn't matter if this was in Fairway, Kansas, clearly everyone on the Missouri side, and as we've seen in other cities as well, cities no doubt around the country are watching this as well, because other departments pay their respects in many ways too on times like this. It's one brotherhood that truly comes together in moments of sorrow.
Yeah, and I love what Chief of Police J.P. Thurlow said. He said, look, we're a small department. We're a small department of only 8 people, and now we're down to 7. But what he wanted everyone to know is that he was so touched by all the outpouring of support from the other departments around Kansas City that he said, you know, we're such a small department, but right at this moment, we feel like we're one of the biggest departments in the country.
That was nice.
And you know, you really got a sense of how appreciative and how touched the members of the Fairway Police Department have been by all the support, the outpouring of support they've seen. And clearly that's notwithstanding what is happening tonight, because this has been a special night for all of Kansas City, and especially for the family of Jonah Oswald and those members of that small Fairway, Kansas Police Department.
And I'm hoping more than anything that his family, surviving members of his family are able to take this in right now and see and feel the love surrounding Jonah tonight. And no doubt someday his kids will look back and watch this as well and realize what a hero their dad was. And we're waiting for official word of the start of this candlelight vigil here at Harmon Park, as all of those in the Parade of Blue have now parked their vehicles, lights still on, in tribute, flashing lights still on, and have made their way down towards the staging area here, this grassy area right near that skate park there at Harmon Park, ready to light their candles. And we understand there's going to be some speakers and a singer as well here in this short ceremony.
Looks like we are just about ready to get kicked off here. We do thank you on however you are watching us, whether it's on KSMO TV or Facebook or kctv5.com or Roku. However you are taking part, thank you for doing that. We know you have a busy Saturday night. We know you have things to do, but the fact that you are with us and you are taking part in this emotional goodbye to our local hero, we thank you for being part of that, because this is important for everyone in the Kansas City area, because losing any first responder is tough, and it affects people in different ways, and it affects so many of our area first responders and their families.
Sure.
Because it's their families who are worrying about their loved ones
on a
who
daily
are going off to
basis.
work. Surely, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's sadly it became a fatal reality for the Oswald family when they received news last Sunday that Fairway, Kansas police officer Jonah Oswald had died in the line of duty responding to a report of a stolen car, and those suspects had run into a gas station in Mission, Kansas, and Officer Jonah Oswald bravely ran into that gas station, and shots were fired, and tragically later on he fought to stay alive, but sadly he lost his life in that shooting, or because of that shooting. And it's been a tough week for people in Fairway and Prairie Village and all the surrounding communities around Fairway. But again, what we can't, what is so evident tonight is how much of a community, larger community this is, the community of Kansas City and all then of the other smaller communities around that everyone in Missouri and Kansas and all the surrounding communities, so many people have taken time out of their day at some point since this tragedy happened last Sunday to, in some way, shape, or form, whether that's through a prayer or dropping something off at the Fairway Police Department, this has been so important for people to be a part of, to say goodbye.
Right. It does appear that this candlelight vigil is getting started, so we're going to do our best here to listen in as best we can from afar here, and at least give you a little peek into the candlelight vigil for Officer Jonah Oswald from the Fairway Police Department tonight. We're hearing, this is the we know it's very dark here, but that's the family. They're being seated there at the front of the vigil, where this seating area has been set up near the skate park.
Yeah, you can hear people whispering. I mean, it's a solemn event, and people are trying to respect that. But you know, there's a lot of kids here as well, as we've mentioned. A lot of young people we saw show up here for the candlelight vigil, and saw a lot of young people along the parade route. But still, this is so solemn, so sad, so tragic.
It is heartbreaking to see.
Well, it's heartbreaking to see the kids.
It really is.
And it just it brings it home that a dad isn't coming home anymore ever again. And as we've said too many times tonight, those kids are going to grow up without a dad, and they won't. That's the pain involved, and a wife's pain, knowing that her husband will never come home.
That was not part of the plan.
Not part of the plan. And so they have taken their seats. They're waiting, just as the rest of us are, for the vigil to start. These things take time. Things generally never go quite as planned. We're running a few minutes behind, but no one's complaining about that. It is so quiet there, and there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people at this event.
I'm telling you, that's been the most
solemn, so solemn.
Touching part of all of this is the quiet, solemn remembrance that's been a part of the entire parade, and now this vigil as well. Clearly a time that everyone in attendance is saying we need to take this moment and we need to show our respect in any way we can, and this being a great way to do that for his family up front there, and for his brothers and sisters in blue who have come from many parts of the metro area. And we thank you again for joining us here. We know if you wanted to be a part of this, but we're just too far away or couldn't get here, this is one way that you can show your support as well. So we do thank you for joining us as well.
So the parade in blue started at 7:32, and everything has gone off as planned. It truly has been a touching and moving tribute and celebration of Officer Jonah Oswald.
It took him about an hour, I would say, to wind around the parade route.
The 10
or so miles, through various parts of town, through Fairway, Roland Park, through Mission, and so forth, just to kind of touch on a few areas where he likely drove quite a bit in that patrol car that we see front and center at this vigil tonight. Appear that everyone's sort of now getting situated, getting seated, and kind of in place here to start this.
Well, the other challenge too is it's dark there, and you're trying to get people seated, and there's not a lot of lighting, and obviously it's a candlelight vigil. That's why they waited to start the parade at 7:30, so that at the conclusion of the parade it would be dark and they could hold this candlelight vigil. So that's why they started it a little bit later, so they could illuminate the candles at the candlelight vigil. So we're just waiting alongside the rest of you all as we wait for the vigil to get started for Officer Jonah Oswald.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Johnson, and I'm a I work with the Fairway Police Department. First off, I want to say thank you for all of you being here. It means so much to all of us. For 2.5 years, I had the honor to work alongside of Jonah Oswald, and everything about him was nothing short of amazing. That man was extremely brave, and any officer in that North Zone area knew if anything were to happen, if anything were to happen, we want Jonah to show up, and that he did every single day. If I could ask you to bow your heads for a quick prayer. Lord Heavenly Father, I want to say thank you. Thank you for reaching and touching the hearts of all these people. Lord, I pray that you continue daily to heal us. We are broken, but if anybody can help us win, it's you, Lord. God, I pray that you're with the family at all times, and you're with the Fairway Police Department at all times. In Jesus' name I pray. Everybody say amen. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is J.P. Thurlow. I'm the Chief of Police with the Fairway Police Department. This is an amazing opportunity for us to be together as a community, not only with Jonah's family, but our family in law enforcement, emergency services, and our community at large. In Fairway, we consider ourselves as the police department to be one with the community. We don't feel like there's an us and them. We feel like we work in step with each other. I want to thank the other agencies that have supported us during this horrible time. They provided us layers of support underneath our department that will never be forgotten. I want to explain who we are. We're very small. We haven't sent an officer to the police academy in over 25 years because the community and the governing body have allowed me to hand select the officers that serve Fairway. So I get to pick an elite group of driven men and women to protect Fairway. Jonah was one of us. He was chosen to be part of that elite group. Before I get into who Jonah was to the department, I'd like to explain some of the things that are here today. The gray doors that you see illuminated in the front were on a patrol car that Jonah was in approximately a month ago. When he was involved in a high-speed pursuit, chasing a felony suspect that had committed multiple crimes in the North Zone. That individual ended up on a cul-de-sac, and Jonah was the first car behind him. He basically had him boxed in with a bunch of other police cars, and that individual rammed Jonah's car 3 times, trying to escape. Those doors were taken from that car. I'll expand on that story later. The police car that you see in front of you was the car that Jonah was in on his last call. Jonah was an amazing officer. He was bright, he was funny, most of all brave. He was always the first one of us out the door. In reference to him being bright, he was super smart. But when I was thinking about that, I think there was more to it than just that. I think that one of the things that Jonah had was not only his intelligence, but his heart. We wear our star over our hearts at the Fairway Police Department. And Jonah's heart radiated. And it radiated through his badge. He was one of the brightest. He was so funny. There's so many funny stories about him. He'd talk in crazy accents, and he always came. He'd walk by my office and say, "Hey, Chief, do you have anything for me to do?" Yes. But we laughed. That was an inside joke that we had. And then I thought, driving in this amazing parade, if we were in the same car, and he would have loved it. If we were in the same car and we were driving in it, he would have thought it was so cool. Except for he would have looked over at me and he would have said, "Hey, Chief, did you notice some of those signs were upside down?" And we would have laughed and laughed. Jonah was so brave. He was full of courage. So much so he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. To protect the community and other officers. That day he raced straight for evil, putting himself between evil and the rest of us. There is so much darkness that he shines his light on all of us. Something unique happened also because of this. We're such a family. The officers that work in Fairway and the governing body and the community, we really all love each other. We don't say it enough. So every time we meet or anytime I talk to the officers. We tell each other that we love each other. I didn't clear that with HR, but I'm sure it's fine. Hannah, the Fairway Police Department loves you. We love Jonah, and we will always be there for you, like he was there for us. Thank you. My name is Melanie Hipperly. I'm the mayor of Fairway. I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. You have no idea how that makes us feel. Like we're not alone, and that's very important. Fairway is 1 square mile in size, with 4,000 residents. We are a small, tightly knit community. Many of our residents know our police officers and city staff by name, in many cases by their first names, and they know ours as well. Walk into the police station or city hall, and you'll frequently find tasty little treats that our residents have shared with us as their way of saying thank you. Officer Oswald is a part of that community and always will be. We were blessed to have Jonah for 4 years. He primarily worked the evening shifts, so we always felt his presence when we saw him patrolling our streets. We knew he was keeping us safe. Every second of every day that he came to work in Fairway, without question, he was here for us, and we knew that. Chief Thurlow remembers Officer Oswald as a warm-hearted individual whose hard work and passion touched the lives of many. Our residents remember him as he represented the best qualities we strive for in Fairway. I have heard from so many residents this week, emails and texts, and they've shared stories with me describing how they remember Jonah. They may have been out walking their dogs. They may have needed help. Or maybe they just wanted to talk. He was always there for us. He was friendly, and these are words that the residents used with me, and I want to share them with you. He was friendly, kind, polite, respectful, helpful, positive, had a great sense of humor, and he was always prepared for each day.
Officer Oswald received the assist call for the City of Mission, there was no hesitation, not at all, as he was prepared to courageously lend his skills where help was needed. His commitment to serve led him into a dangerous situation in which he gave his life defending our communities. Jonah will be missed every day, and he will never be forgotten by his fellow officers and the entire community of Fairway that he so faithfully served. Hannah, I want to thank you for sharing Jonah with us. I know it wasn't, no, I don't know. I can only imagine how difficult it was every day when he left for work. I know your heart aches, but please know, as the chief said, we are there for you now and tomorrow and in the future. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We will help in any way we can. I would like to say thank you to the community for the love and support being shown to the City of Fairway and to the Fairway Police Department during this difficult time. There's no way any one of us can describe to you what that difficult time is like. And as small as we are, the agencies across this metropolitan area have been there for us. We couldn't have done it without them, and we couldn't have done it without the support of our Fairway community and the surrounding communities. I am so proud of our police department, and I am so proud of Fairway.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fear relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Good evening. My name is Kip Nelson. I am the chaplain coordinator for First Midwest and chaplain for Lee Summit Police Department. Right now we're going to prepare for a time in our service of the candle lighting. You'll see over to my left 3 candles. The largest candle, putting off the most light, represents Jonah. One of the candles up in the front represents our community, which is grieving the loss of one of our finest. And the other candle represents the brave men and women who have sworn to serve and to protect. Jonah was a shining light in our community. He was a shining light among our blue family. Those who knew Jonah loved him. And so we pray that tonight, as these lights illuminate the darkness of this evening, that it may bring comfort and peace to all who need it. Right now, I'm going to invite Chief J.P. Thurlow to come and light his candle. He will be lighting it from the flame put off by Jonah's candle. And as the flame spreads throughout this place tonight, I hope that you will find comfort and peace. As Chief lights his candle, he will first start by lighting the candles of the family of Jonah. He will then pass Jonah's flame to his peers at the Fairway Police Department. Then these fine officers will distribute the flame throughout the rest of the people that are here tonight. I encourage you to prepare your candles right now. If you did not receive a candle when you came in, as the flame comes near you, would you please just light up your cell phones so we can see the light that is put out to shine tonight. Right now, I'm going to ask that each person here join me for a moment of reflection, a moment of respect. It's in moments like this that words cannot express the tremendous grief that our community is experiencing over the tragedies of this past week. As a community, we are all left stunned. We are all left hurting. We've all got questions. We mourn the tragic loss of Officer Jonah Oswald. And we commend Officer Oswald for his heroic actions and his courage this past week. So right now, I encourage all of you to join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. I'm going to encourage each of you right now that have a flame or a light, if the wind won't blow it out, to go ahead and hold that up for a moment. And I want you, the family of Jonah, and the peers, the officers that he worked with, I want you to look around this place right now and see the light that Jonah was to the community, the impact that he made to so many. And my prayer is that tonight that brings comfort and peace to you, the family. On behalf of the Oswald family, and on behalf of the Fairway Police Department and all of our law enforcement agencies, we thank you for your support. You may now carefully extinguish your flames. To you, the family, and our officers. On behalf of my family, both blood and blue, and on behalf of each person here tonight, we want to express our appreciation to you, the Oswald family. Thank you for sharing your beloved husband, father, son, and friend with all of us. Please know that you are in our thoughts. You are in our prayers. Moving forward, you will always be in our hearts. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Right now, I'm going to invite Chief Thurlow and our color guard and the family to be dismissed. As the family and color guard are being dismissed, I want to encourage you to listen to these words by Michael Cloutier. You are free to dismiss the people. As they make their way out, I want you to hear these words. If you could see what I have seen, maybe you'd understand. It takes a special kind of person who opts to make a stand. If you could see what I've seen, you'd have ringside seat to life. It is not always full of sugar and roses. Often there's strife. If you could see what I've seen, the holidays aren't always merry. We labor day in, we labor day out, and always to protect our family. If you could see what I've seen, you'd understand the great cost that consumes a loving mother when her 2-year-old is lost. If you could see what I've seen, you would understand their pain when you tell his parents in the middle of the night that his death was not in vain. If you could see what I've seen, you'd understand the grief the entire family suffers from what he injects underneath. If you could see what I've seen, you'd opt to go in because you know that someone is trapped from within. If you could see what I've seen, you would know a family's care. Reading the last message on her cell phone, knowing that she's not there. If you could see what I've seen, you'd recognize in her eyes when that child speaks, you're the only one who's not surprised. If you could see what I've seen, you'd chase him near and far. For what he did to that little boy left a huge emotional scar. If you could see what I've seen, you'd understand the truth. The media paints a picture that's erroneous and uncouth. If you could see what I've seen, you might choose other work, because you'd feel that this one takes much more than it's worth. If you could see what I've seen, you'd experience the uncertainty. When my family waits to hear from me, knowing it's often dirty. If you could see what I've seen, you'd help lead the way, hoping to ensure that everyone goes home that day. If you could see what I've seen, you know there are miracles all around. And realize your daily sacrifice helps communities abound. If you could see what I've seen, you'd understand his will. When a 9-year-old loses his father, the impact is forever still. If you could see what I've seen, the stories are all true. But the scars, they're not always visible, not even to you. If you could see what I've seen, you'd understand what I do. It's not in vain. The reason is simple. I do it all for you. As we leave here tonight, I want to encourage you to remember all of those who are serving our communities and helping keep our communities and our neighborhoods safe. Remember their sacrifice. Remember their love and their courage as they serve within our agencies. As we wrap up tonight, I want to encourage you to please return your candles to the tables that are over here to my right by the sidewalk as you leave. Thank you again for being here. Please keep the family in your prayers. Travel home safely. God bless.
It has been quite the night. This started, the Parade of Blue started at 7:30 tonight. And we've been with you the entire time, bringing this to you on KSMO and other streaming platforms, kctv5.com. We're very proud to be a part of this as Kansas City, Fairway, and all the surrounding towns around Fairway say goodbye to a hero, a fallen officer, 29-year-old Jonah Oswald. And this is just the beginning of remembrances and memorials, because his funeral is yet to come on Monday.
Right, visitation tomorrow night, then the funeral on Monday morning. I think the Fairway Police Department chief said it best when he said Officer Oswald had an amazing heart, and he said his heart radiated through his badge. And we saw that tonight, that many were willing to give up their Saturday night and honor this fallen officer, this fallen hero. We will be back with you tonight for KCTV5 News at 10 with more coverage of this vigil and the rest of the weekend news. We'll see you in about 15 minutes.